Thank you for being here. I'm not impressed at all by this room. I'm very much grateful to the CCC for the opportunity to speak here. We're going to deal with very important matters, very important issues about the future of the internet. And first of all, I want to do a quick survey. Who among you is familiar with the concept of net neutrality? That's what I thought. Okay. Who among you feels able to explain the concept of net neutrality to your mom and dad? That's a bit less. But we'll try to improve that. Okay, so I'm the founder and spokesperson for La Quadrature du Net. We're a citizen group advocating for civil liberties in the digital environment. We're a kind of citizen toolbox, providing analytical and web-based tools for people to understand the legislative process about the internet when freedom is at stake, and participate in the debate. Put the foot in the door in the legislative debate and put the citizen first. So we were active on the French three strikes Adopi legislation. I bet you heard of the political nightmare it turned to be for the government. At the same time, we had to fight on the European level on the telecoms package, where the content industries were trying to sneak in three strikes policies. And we discovered very disturbing threats within that telecoms package, including threats to the net neutrality, and we literally triggered a European debate on that question. First of all, I want to show you something. It's a kind of trophy we earned in the Adopi battle. It's hung above the fireplace next to the taxidermized head of the former Minister of Culture, Christine Albanel. It's a decision that was given by the highest jurisdiction of France, the Constitutional Court, about the first Adopi law. And it says basically, it says this. I will read it to you. Article 11 of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen of 1789 proclaims, quote, "The free communication of ideas and opinions is one of the most precious rights of man. Every citizen may thus speak, write and publish freely, except when such freedom is misused in cases determined by law." This is freedom of speech. In the current state of the means of communication, and given the generalized development of public online communication services, this is internet, and the importance of the latter for the participation in democracy and the expression of ideas and opinions, this right implies freedom to access such services. So we have the highest jurisdiction, the Constitutional Court, of one small country in Europe, that says that freedom of speech implies freedom to access to the internet. So we were all convinced of that already. But it's better when somebody like this writes it. I think this is a historical decision. I think we have to stick to it. Even if you're not a French citizen, you can show this to your local elected representative or legislature. This is something very, very important that we have to keep in mind. But we all know that freedom of speech implies freedom to access the internet. The question we have to ask ourselves now is, what is the freedom to access the internet? What is the internet? So, internet as we know it today is that space where everybody is a peer, where everybody has the same opportunity of participation into this public space. Whatever your geographical position, I mean, if you really have access to the internet, not ChinaNet or IranNet or TunisiaNet or some other countries where people don't have access to the internet. So if you still have access to the internet today, you're one peer among the others. No discrimination is faced when you try to connect somewhere based on your origin, based on the destination of your message, or based on what you're trying to say. This is the internet. To put it simple, there is one internet for everybody. Wherever you are, you connect to the very same network. This is kind of a bug. This was not meant to happen like this. It gives all the social, cultural, economic benefits that we use every day. We live through the internet, we work through the internet, we learn through the internet, we love through the internet. You all know that. We have to keep in mind that all we get from it comes from this very simple, yet so much in danger today, characteristics that the very same internet applies to everyone. Well, you might recognize this Death Star-like logo. This is AT&T. AT&T of America was the most important lobby force in the European Parliament against net neutrality. Don't ask me why. Well, ask me why. Well, I'll tell you why. I think that is part of a kind of global strategy where they use Europe as a kind of playground. They wouldn't want Europe to be more protective of net neutrality and citizens' rights as the US does. Therefore, they want to impose the same, not to impose, but to destroy as much net neutrality, therefore, of freedoms in the EU that they're trying to do in the US. The fun fact is that I think, maybe you'll correct me on this, I think that AT&T of America doesn't even own a network in Europe. So we were in the middle of that telecoms package thing. We were basically dealing with issues about the three strikes policies the entertainment industries were trying to impose. We uncovered some very disturbing privacy issues in some other parts of this very complex set of European legislation. And at some point, we uncovered amendments that AT&T were trying to pass. So we uncovered a very troubling coalition between AT&T, the rapporteur of a part of the package, Malcolm Harbour, a UK Conservative member of the European Parliament, and Ofcom, the UK network regulator, who was acting on the telecoms package as a lobbyist. So with all this disturbing kind of family, we came out to uncover such bits of wording. I want to show you something in particular here. This is, for those of you who are familiar with EU legislation, this is a recital. It's not part of an article. It doesn't have to be transposed by the member states. It's an explanation of the intent of the legislature. And so AT&T was trying to sneak this along with article with a real legislative power, saying that it's the right of network and service operators to diversify their offerings through the imposition of reasonable usage restrictions. So I got a big problem with this. Why my telecom operator would restrict my usage of the internet? Why my telecom operator should even know what is my usage of the internet? The telecoms operator provides me access to a pipe. Whenever the operator tells you what to do or what not to do with the pipe, then net neutrality is broken. And it was very simple for them. It's just about diversifying their offerings. It's so simple. Basically, all the arguments they sent to the legislature at this moment were pure bullshit. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't say bullshit. Were very easy to debunk. They were selling arguments such as the death of the internet. You remember the Death Star logo. So, internet will melt. We all know this. Internet will melt tomorrow unless we break net neutrality. And some operators believe, some legislators, some members of the European Parliament believed into it. They also said things such as, oh, but the next generation services for the internet will require high quality of service. Think of telemedicine. Yes, you'll get your liver replaced through the internet. Just click here. Yes. I imagine so, yes. And it requires high quality of service. If you got more than 1 millisecond jitter or lag, so bad. So bad for your liver. Yeah? Well, so we try to explain to the members of the European Parliament, first of all, what is internet, and also that if your protocol is not designed to handle jitter and lag, then this is not an internet protocol. No question about it. And we had to make this argumentation for a very long time. I'm not sure everybody got it yet. That this was the plan. This was the master plan of those telecoms operators. You see here? You got the $29 internet basic service, where you got access to MSN, eBay, and such things. If you pay more, you have access to some Wikipedia, Google, Yahoo stuff. And if you pay even more, then you'll have a publisher, blogger internet service, where you can also send data and not just getting some. This is a mock-up, indeed. I think it's very funny. Well, funny might not be the exact word. And one might think, yeah, okay, so this is some apocalyptic scenario, this doesn't happen, this won't happen in reality. I just want to ask you a quick question here. How much of you on their mobile phone have a so-called mobile internet access that contains restrictions? Well, okay, maybe many of you don't read the fine print on your contract. On my mobile phone, so-called mobile internet contract, it is written that, voice over IP is forbidden. Oh, and also peer-to-peer is forbidden. Anyway, it's for illegal content, everybody knows that. And a news group is forbidden as well. And if you try to look for your IP address, you'll just appear to notice that you don't have one. So, open a server in those circumstances. Well, it happens that in France, the 3 mobile phone operators have exactly the same conditions, exactly the same restrictions. So-called mobile internet shouldn't even be called internet today, and this is happening today. And this is really what they want to impose. My big problem, along with this, is that you now see a blurring of the lines between who is an internet service provider, somebody whose job is to do internet connectivity access, somebody who is a telecom operators, they're merging. Telecom operators open their internet service, mobile telecom operators open the so-called mobile internet and so on. And now the media groups, more and more merging are occurring between the media groups and the telecoms and internet service providers. The financial crisis accelerates this process. We had for some time already, there was the failure of AOL Time Warner. In the UK, they got Virgin and Virgin. In France, we got Vivendi Universal and SFR 9. Comcast, NBC is merging in the US, and so on and so on. And so, when the interest of the media becomes the interest of the internet service provider, which becomes the interest of the telecoms operator, then we are in a very bad situation. Because the telecoms operators so far had a model that was exclusively based on selling you minutes of access. Wherever you call, it's by the minute. Sometimes they did a flat rate for local calls in some countries, but their business was to get as much money as you would spend minutes using their networks. And it doesn't apply with internet as we know it and as we use it today. So they are looking for new business models. How can they make you pay more? When you're watching that YouTube stuff, it doesn't get them 1 extra cent. Therefore, they have to provide you bandwidth. And they don't understand that their job is to provide you the bandwidth. So they're literally right now devising new plans for making you pay more for the real internet access. What they're trying to do is convince the European legislature, they try to do this, that giving them the right to restrict your internet access was the only mean to ensure new investment in the network. Actually, this is a fraud. This is a massive scam. They're trying to say that the growth model of the internet is something else than everybody investing in the common infrastructure. They're trying to say that there is something else to do than providing access with a flat rate for a global internet access in order to refund the investment. Actually, what they're trying to do with this is to build an artificial scarcity of bandwidth. So far, they grew the pipe. When the pipe was getting full, they grew the pipe. When the pipe was getting full, they grew the pipe, and so on, and it went harmoniously. The internet grew organically. This common infrastructure that we love and share, that is called the internet, grew organically like this, mushroom-esque development. What they're trying to do now is to stop this development. Once the bandwidth is fixed, when it doesn't get bigger anymore, then they can sell you the safety vest. They can sell you the right not to be subjected to congestion. Here again, it might seem like science fiction, but it's, what was the name of that operator who did so in Spain? Vodafone. Vodafone did this in Spain very recently. Oops, sorry. Vodafone did this in Spain recently, where now they're a great option for so-called mobile internet users that would pay a few extra euros and then won't be subjected to congestions when congestions occur on the network. It means everybody will go slow, but the people who will have paid for the safety vest. Therefore, it's a direct incentive for the operators not to invest in the bandwidth anymore, but to create that artificial bandwidth scarcity. It is our role as citizens, as internet lovers, to explain everybody what is going on there. They are trying to break our toy. They're trying to break the internet. Well, so far, this is all we obtained in the telecoms package to oppose what they got against net neutrality. It's a bit weak. It's indeed has been weakened in second reading. Basically what he said is the ability of end user to access and distribute information and run applications and services of their choice. This is quite a good definition of net neutrality. It lacks something about non-discrimination, but it's close from a definition to net neutrality. Well, the EU legislator added that this is the role of the National Regulation Authority. So Ofcom in the UK, ARCEP in France, I don't know the name of the German one, the authorities that regulate the network, give the license and so on. So those authorities must just promote the ability of end users to access and distribute information. Before that, it was a very strong wording, like ensuring the right for end users. But it was, when we arrived to the package, to access and distribute lawful content and run lawful application and lawful services, which is a very bad notion. I won't detail that. So we obtained this bit of text to be cleared a little, but now it's been weakened because somebody can tell me what is promoting the ability. Indeed, it's not an enforcement, but we have this tool between our hands. On the other end of the spectrum, AT&T got dreadful provisions that got voted in the telecoms package. Actually, it's a bit neutralized version than the AT&T provisions. It was pushed by Ofcom, which says that it's okay to limit access to services and applications on the internet. It is okay, provided that the end user is informed in his contract. Like if I tell you that in your yogurt there is lead, then it's okay for me to sell yogurts with lead. Okay? It also says that the operator has to inform you if there is any change in those limitations to access to services and applications. Therefore, it makes those changes possible. Imagine receiving an email, "Oh, sorry, user, but today you won't be able to access the Pirate Bay thing anymore. You know that BitTorrent terrorist protocol you're using? Well, sorry, now it's over." Or that high bandwidth you had, "Oh, but we have to obey the rules, and you know, Vivendi Universal told us so, so now you have only 10 kilobits second left. I hope it's okay for your email." Well, they obtained this. On the other hand, there is that, and we are in the middle. We are the users, we are the citizens, we know what net neutrality is about, And it is our duty as citizens to act on those issues. We have many ways of actions. We cannot tell that we don't know what's going on. We cannot tell that we have nothing, that there's nothing we can do about it. We have the most powerful tool for spreading information, spreading awareness that has ever been built since the printing press. We need to use this tool in order to protect it. It's as simple as this. So what can we do in order to protect net neutrality? Well, blog about it, tweet about it. When an operator offers a great new offer or new option or something that breaks net neutrality, you have to say it loud, with all your knowledge of geekishness, networkness, and everything that flows with zero and ones. You have to explain it. You have to tell it to your friends, you have to tell it to journalists, you have to tell it to elected representatives. You also can talk to the Network Regulation Authority in your country. We recently obtained an interview with ARCEP, the French regulating authority, that is now beginning to study this question of net neutrality. The political momentum we built in Europe around this question of net neutrality was so high that during the second reading of the telecoms package, everybody heard this term net neutrality. Everybody heard net neutrality, citizen rights, connected the dots, the EU magazines, the Brussels bubble was talking all over about net neutrality. This is now the moment to go to your national regulation authority and say, hey, please, do something about net neutrality. Here is what we have to say. There is material on La Quadrature du Net that you can reuse. There is this dossier that is printed in the book of the 26th history. You can go to them and explain to them what you know about the network and why it should remain free. You can give very persuasive business arguments about the growth model of the network, about how companies benefit from the pure and perfect competition of an open internet, and so on. And you should go ahead and do it. You can talk to your members of the parliament and ask them to do something. Show them what the operators are trying to do, what they are doing in some other countries, and tell them we need a strong legislation to prevent this from happening. You can go and talk to the members of the European Parliament. You can ask them to talk to the new commissioners, the new commissioners from the next European Commissions. They will be auditioned by the Parliament in very early January. So the Parliament has occasion to ask questions. We publish questions regarding net neutrality and other topics. So you can pressure the members of European Parliament so they ask those questions. And it is very important that the next European Commission, as soon as it arrives in place, knows that there is an issue with net neutrality and that there is the need to work about it. So all this you can do with a very few clicks, with a very few phone calls, with a very few minutes here and then. If you don't know how to do it, just ask me, just send me an email, just come to our mailing list and RSC channels, and we'll guide you towards this. It is about the power we have as citizens on the internet. We have the power to build new things. We have the power to create new services. We have the power to publish information, to raise awareness on issues. And this has to continue. A point I wanted to make also, it's kind of related to net neutrality, but it is also a very, very important threat that lies on our freedoms right now. The entertainment industry understood that their tactics of going after the end user is fail. The Adopi in France is total fail. The trials in the US are total fail. Everywhere they try something, epic fail. So now they will attack the heart of the network. They think it's their last chance. They think it's their only chance. And how will they do it? Well, they will attack the liability of the third parties, the liability of the technical intermediates of the internet, the ISPs, the hoster providers. All those guys are now protected by exemption of liability. Well, maybe you heard of the ACTA agreement. The ACTA agreement is a multilateral executive agreement. It means it doesn't have to go through Parliament for being decided. It's governments that set themselves around the table without a WIPO, without a WTO, without any kind of institution, whether it's democratic or not, to host it. And they will decide things such as encouraging the 3 strikes on one hand, such as making the intermediates liable for the content that goes through their pipes, liability for transmission and storage of copyrighted material is the wording that was used by the European Commission to describe what is in the ACTA right now. Well, the content is secret for 18 months, it's been negotiated. So, through the ACTA, through the intermediate liability, they're also attacking net neutrality. The attack comes from the entertainment industries, from the telecom operators themselves. It comes from all sides. But the question we have to ask ourselves, will we decide the future of the internet? And consequently, who owns the internet today? I agree. The infrastructure, the pipes, the copper, the fibers belongs in part to the operators. I say in part because they had heavy subsidies from states in many cases. So okay, they own the infrastructure, no problem, fine. But what goes through the pipes? It's ours. We built it, we grow it, we do it every day. And we need to be able to continue to do it. This is what is at stake. Thank you very much. So I wanted to finish this quickly so we can have a discussion about it together. I hope there will be trolls. I hope there will be lots of questions. Here be trolls, no? So I'd be delighted to continue that discussion with you. Questions, comments, anything, please? Maybe the simplest is that you line up in front of the microphone. I think it's the most egalitarian way of doing it. Okay.
Now, among members of Parliament, of the EU Parliament, which ideology or party lines can you see that are for or against net neutrality? I think we all know what, for example, the Pirate Party's position is, but what about, for example, Social Democrats?
Fortunately, we save time. That's a very interesting question. What is the balance of powers in the EU Parliament right now? I would say that there is no clear line of division, which is a very good thing. Actually, the European Parliament is shaped in a way that there is a majority versus an opposition, with the majority being able to do whatever they want to do, and the opposition being powerless. You get the ALDE group, the kind of centrist group, that if it balances from one side to the other, can be key to a vote. In the second reading of the telecoms package, when the whole ALDE group balanced in favor of voting for Amendment 138, it was passed. So I would say that there's no clear line, that among the right-wing EPP, there are some people who are able to have a clear business perspective and to see the competition interest of an open internet. On the left wing, there are people who see the internet of an egalitarian internet for everybody and citizen participation. In the center, they can take a little bit of both. The Green Group has been on opposition for a long time, since the Software Patent Directive. They're doing a good job on this. I think our issues go way beyond the traditional party lines, and this is our strength. Each time we won important victories whether it was the Amendment 138, whether it was the Software Patent Directive, whether it was the rejection of the Hadopi law in the first reading in the French Parliament and so on. All the time it was because we had a cross-party coalition. So this is what we can build. We're not lobbies, we're activists. We can each other go and talk to our representative, whatever his party is, and find arguments that go towards the general interest that speaks to them. So to answer your question, there is no clear ID on this. We have a web-based tool called Political Memory that records all the votes of all the members of the European Parliament and rates them according to ratio coefficients we put. So it's a very useful very useful tool along the time to see who are the best, who are the worst. So you can use this to document yourself. Also, it's sad to say, but it's usually a very little number of members who work on a specific issue. You got the rapporteurs for a specific directive or report. You have the so-called shadow rapporteurs for every political group. And that's usually a bunch of 10 people working on a specific issue. So if you manage to put pressure on those people, you can change the outcome of a vote. Also, which is also very sad, many times it's not the content of what they are voting that influence them more than the political context around. And we build the political context. When everybody is blogging and talking and mailing and calling about one specific issue, when the journalists take it and publish it, when everything around them talks about an issue, then it is important no matter what. And this is what collectively using internet we can do very easily.
Thank you.
Not that easily, actually.
Okay, my name is Oskar Schwarz.
Hello.
I come from Sweden.
Hey.
And I'm probably one of the most net-loving persons in my country. I started one of the first independent internet service providers called Bahnhof in 1994. And since then I've been burning for the net. I've been writing. I'm an activist. This firm is still run by my former colleagues. And it's fighting for freedom all the time. But I have a slight problem with legislation concerning what internet service providers should be able to do. You know, and it's very hard to define. For example, every provider blocks support 25. Is that allowed? Is that net neutral or something? And I've seen so many attempts. For example, in the beginning, America Online tried to offer special content and so on when I started Bahnhof. And it didn't work because people wanted, you know, a neutral net. They wanted access to everything. So if we have competition, then I think, you know, people will choose the open services. But although I'm burning for an open net, I also have problems with, you know, regulating what free market will do. So what do you say?
Lots of things. Thank you. So yeah, first of all, I wonder why we didn't meet before. We'll have lots of things in common to discuss later on. There is an excellent question here about something I forgot to say in my presentation, which is how should we define in technical terms that are broad enough and understandable enough to put in a legislation to define what is the good behavior and the bad behavior of an internet operator. I think this is the sense of part of your comment. Well, we came to that definition that you cannot mandate that operators do no quality of service, no traffic shaping at all on their network. This is an illusion. But what we can do is that the role of an operator is to provide access to the cable, to provide a secure access to the cable, and to make it run smoothly. And therefore, restrictions of access to service and application that would be temporary and that would be done in order to prevent security problem or temporarily unpredictable congestion, this is okay. If you got whatever botnet, virus attack, whatever, yes, you restrict a port, no problem. I think that maybe a spam attack could be considered a security attack. So preserving the security of the network and its users is part of the job of an ISP. Then if a router melts, if an uplink breaks somewhere and the bandwidth is divided by 2 at once, then restricting everybody's bandwidth and temporarily restricting BitTorrent, temporarily while replacing the hardware, I think this is okay as well. So I think it is very clear. I think that we can define this in legalese, and I think that all the honest ISPs will be happy with it. The question is about new business models based on restriction of access. This is not tolerable. And also, yeah, I want to emphasize what you said about competition. Yes, when there is competition, competition might be able to sort that out. In France, you see a merging of more and more operators together. I think that 3 operators have like a 95 or 99% of the users. One of them is a kind of challenger, a bit rogue. You've heard maybe of free.fr, who really did some innovation. The other is one historical operator, and the operator merged with Vivendi Universal. On the mobile phone networks, I told you there are so far only 3 mobile operators, so there's no competition. So we cannot rely on competition rules. We cannot wait that one operator goes to a competition regulator that will launch a procedure that will collect billions of pages of evidence over 10 years in order to say that whether or not my blocking of BitTorrent was a competition problem. So we cannot rely on competition law. Also, it is very important that we stimulate and build independent infrastructure, independent operators. In France, we have this operator called FDN, French Data Network, which was built in '92, which is historically the first in-time operator in France. It is very small. It is 100% volunteer-based. They use indeed the copper network that is not theirs, but they provide DSL access. So this kind of initiative is very important because who knows, maybe one day we will have to rebuild the internet from scratch? I don't know.
Yeah, hi. I see another problem with net neutrality, which is that I can download much faster than I can upload. So I have to consume more than I can contribute, and I would be interested in your opinion to that. The other thing is the thing calling your European governors. It really works. I tried it out, and they talk to you, or at least the interns talk to you, yes. And they say, "Oh, thank you for calling," and that's so nice. And it really works. It takes only a few minutes to do that, and I think it has a good impact. So please all do that.
Let me congratulate you for making your job as a citizen. This is very, very important to do. And yes, you will talk to the intern or to the assistant, but usually they are doing the job. They're working on the dossier, so this is very important. And also, you cannot imagine the psychological impact. Even if they're not nice with you, even if you call and say, yeah, I know, yeah, net neutrality, yeah, I know, and they hang up on you. Imagine the impact of those guys having 100 phone calls a day. Yeah, I know net neutrality, yeah. Ping! Yeah, I know net neutrality. Ping! Yeah, I know. Getting them crazy is part of building that political context. Seriously. I'm really serious about that. When the member of the parliament will enter his office and ask, what's going on? Net neutrality. You see? So this is really, really an important and easy thing to do. I know I'm curing myself on my geekishness And I don't like to make phone calls. I prefer sending emails. But it works so much better. And when you do it once and you're uncomfortable with it, and you do it twice, and it gets easy. And it's really, really a powerful tool that we can use. Also on the question of the symmetric, I think it is not per se a problem with net neutrality, as long as there is no restriction with what you can do with the download and what you can do with the upload. I think it is a problem, a structural problem for the overall ecosystem of the internet. I think that there is a historical choice here of going for ADSL instead of SDSL, asymmetrical versus symmetrical digital subscribers line. Then the scale economy on the chips worked so well that the ADSL became so much cheaper than it became the norm. This is a problem. I have no clear solution, but as long as I can do whatever I want to do with my upload, I'm quite happy with it.
Thank you for your talk this evening. It was very interesting. Just on the point of competition, I'd like to make something known that in my own home country of Ireland, our main ISP was recently sued by some entertainment industries, and as a result, they've blocked all access to Pirate Bay. I think it's one of the first cases in Europe where this has happened. And as a result of which, the consumer backlash has been considerable. And many, many people, and perhaps my own peer group is distorted in percentage-wise, but most of the people I know have switched ISPs to a different provider. And the ISPs that do implement this form of net restriction, I think they're signing their own death warrant. They're going to just drive themselves out of the market because it's not what people want. No customer actually wants this. And if a company can provide something the customer does want, then they're going to survive. Second point, I just wanted to ask perhaps a somewhat of a trial question, if you forgive me. I wanted to ask whether you think that every single data packet is equal. If you think about it, you don't think twice when you pick up the telephone and you call America. You don't think twice that it'll cost you more than if it were to cost your neighbour, because it goes through so many more different networks and goes through, so the cost is higher. So if you watch much YouTube, and for your particular ISP, it costs them a lot of transit costs to bring YouTube to you, is it fair to say that they can't pass that cost on to you? I mean, I'm not saying restricted, but is it our right, is it possible for us to tell them how they can run their business in that regard? It seems a little bit to and fro.
Me like scroll. So, first of all, I think you make a very important point on the Irish situation, on what are the successful ingredients for raising awareness and campaigning for net neutrality. You have to have a bad guy, somebody doing something wrong, then you have to get people to know about it, to get media attention, to blog about it, to write about it. Then you can make alliance with consumer organizations, which are usually very powerful. They're very, most of the time, very friendly. They got talented people working there who know or get to know easily about those issues. So it's a good thing to do. And yes, we have the power of our wallets. We decide who we send our money to. But this requires competition. People had some other ISP to switch to. And I told you already that, for instance, in France with the mobile internet, you don't have such competition. And I saw the figure, how many countries in Europe have only one internet service provider? It blew my mind. I think it was 8 or 9. And when you get to 2 operators, I think it was something like half of the member states. So yes, in a competitive environment, we can have this. Therefore, we have to watch, to be careful for that environment to stay kind of healthy. Regarding your second question, may I call it a question? No, I'm just joking here. I think it's very, very important because it's the way the ISPs sell their need for restriction to the legislator, saying, oh, look at those figures, the bandwidth is going so high, it's going to melt. Well, you can trace back as long as 1996 apocalyptic visions of a melting internet. It's very funny. Somebody should do a compilation, you know, every year, the new meltdown. Well, internet was built through that mutualization of the infrastructure. This is literally what we call the internet, where all bits are not created equal, because I told you that there are some conditions where it's okay to temporarily make some restrictions. But when the hardware is so dumb that it doesn't look what's going through, it has great implications for privacy as well. The problem I see is that so far, it was kind of a bug. It was a natural state. The hardware was too dumb to look at what was going through. But now, the hardware with deep packet inspection and such techniques becomes able to make the discrimination. If you look at the commercial documents from the router manufacturers, you will see that they explicitly say, oh, differentiation of traffic will save you huge infrastructure costs. So they sell it like this. Stop growing that internet thing already. Make new business models based on discrimination and buy your routers. And this is something we shall not tolerate. Also, I would like to add that it's true that there are huge infrastructure investments, but the transit, it's almost nothing compared to what the last mile costs. And the last mile costs, it's digging the ground. It's very heavy machinery involved and so on. And in many times it is subsidized by the state. Many times it is about touching the common infrastructure with hardware from the municipality and so on. So we have to be careful of where the investment comes from and where it goes to before saying that we have to make restriction on the packets. And also, if for some reason investment in whatever 4G, 5G, 12G network is so high, then they have to raise the costs for an access that will be full speed, full neutral, where you can do whatever you want with it. One business model that is perfectly okay is to sell you lower speed for lower price, lowest speed for lowest price, and so on. My mom would be perfectly fine with a few kilobytes per second, where some heavy BitTorrent user would need the huge pipe. And if you pay for the pipe and do whatever you want to do with it, I'm perfectly fine with it. And I'm sure we can devise business plans and offers that take this into account and take whatever infrastructure cost there is.
Thank you very much.
Hi. I have a personal experience to share. I've been in the open source movement for a few years. I've given talks at the European Parliament against software patents. I followed the EU CD battle as well, and all these issues haven't really been successes so far.
I wouldn't be so definitive, but
yeah, well, I've called my share of members of parliament in France, and I think I've done a few things for that. I've heard you talk about arguments, and I was wondering whether you had any words for people who no longer believe this is a battle won with arguments.
Well, that's a very good question. I thank you very much for asking it. Okay, so I gave the politically correct vision of it earlier. Now let's go for a bit more realistic approach. What we do is increasing the political cost of their decisions. If they do it in an empty parliament, with nobody watching, with this pile of amendment and one in the middle that say, oh, let's fuck freedom, and nobody's watching, then it's okay. If everybody's watching, if above the parliament it's full of people taking notes, if it's full of journalists, if before going to the plenary they saw in their inbox 10,000 emails and press releases, if they see their name printed in the press saying, oh, Rapporteur Trautmann, Rapporteur Harbour is about to let this and this go through, then their reptilian political brand takes over. And it's about that survival instinct, political survival instinct that takes over. Oh no, my name is going to be bound to that bad shit from AT&T that I knew was bad, but I thought nobody would notice, and I really don't want that. So, oh, freedom is so important. Oh, let's defend freedom because freedom. And it happens. It happens. I don't say it happens all the time, but it happens. And here again, it's part of the same political context we are building around these issues. So this work can only be made from outside the parliament by thousands of people, while we can be inside the parliament with, you know, the little pill, the cure for the disease, the amendment that will say freedom, you know, in key with what we think. So this is this dual action that we have to practice, to enhance, and to put in place.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Niels Elgaard from the IT Political Association of Denmark. What we do is we just invite members of national parliament and Europe Parliament to come and visit at our first day's meetings. So we had 2 meetings this month and 2 or 3 next month. And it's very good because they learn from us and we certainly learn from them. And one of the things we learn, I think, is that you're accepting that thing about security and excuse can be very dangerous, because one of the things we're actually planning is to say, if you suspect botnets or spam or something, we will actually force the ISPs to close down your internet connection. We don't close it, we call it Cantan. We will open it in a few days if you ask us nicely, and if you download our software and want it, and that software says that your computer is okay. And you know, that's of course unacceptable. I mean, if I were to close down my server in the basement while I'm here at Berlin and can access to it, that's no good, right? And I'm not going to run any government software, and probably wouldn't run on Linux anyway. So this can be extremely bad, and of course the problem here is that the government is mandating the ISPs to do certain actions in the name of security, and that doesn't go.
I think I got nothing to add on this.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm afraid there is only one question left, but there are just 2 persons here, so maybe we can we? If you're quick.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to add something to the calling your member of the European Parliament. In my opinion, writing an email is better, because if they get phone calls every day, all day long, they get annoyed.
Yes,
and
that's one of the objectives.
No, I don't think so.
Believe me, this is how you build political context.
I know some members of the European Parliament. I'm politically active myself, and I think getting people annoyed is not the right thing. You should talk to them very friendly, don't insult them. That's very important.
Indeed.
That's the second thing I wanted to say. Be prepared to explain the issue to them, because not every member of the parliament knows everything. They cannot know everything. They're not experts for everything, so be prepared to explain it to them. And in my opinion, that's what I heard of these members. Email is better.
I slightly disagree, because I think that email and phone calls are very much complementary. The emails are very easy to filter and to delete. And you know that in our era of abundance, the value is in attention. So in order to get their attention, when they see the word neutrality, it goes to the bin, you know, and you get thousands. Oh, believe me, many do so. Or they send it to a folder and they don't read the folder. What you can say, what you must do actually, is you send the email, all right, and it's a good way to check if it was efficient. You call 1 hour afterwards. Hello, I sent you an email. Have you read it? Well, it's okay. I'm going to tell you what was inside already. it was about this and this and that. What does Mr. Whatever think about it? Well, we'll call you back. Oh, yeah. You call me back, yeah. And the day after you call back. Oh, you said you would call me back, but I call you back. So what does Mr. think about it? I tell you, this is the way to do it. Do we have time for one more?
Hello, Thomas Horizon from Denmark. I have a note and a question. There was this question about the price on providing YouTube, and I could also add that it's not that expensive because it can just be cached in the local network, and it often is. So, it will only have to be transferred one time from abroad, and then it can be sent to 1,000 of times, depending how many wish to look at it. My question is, what's your idea about should it be illegal to sell services which is only a partial internet access, as you had in your example, or should it just be in the rules that it should be that we should be able to have an internet product if we need that and want that, and also that if it's not a full internet product, it should be clearly stated that it's not a full internet product? Or is what's your opinion? What should be legal?
Sure, it's not only a matter of consumers' issue, of what offer they provide you. Remember, it's a question of fundamental rights and freedom.
Yes, but this is for the US. What about the European?
No. This is France, actually. This is France. This is a decision by the highest court in France.
Sorry. Yeah.
And you can make the argument, using this or using bits of the telecoms package we sneaked in also, that internet access is the tool for the usage of fundamental rights and freedom. Therefore, when you restrict my internet access, you restrict my freedom. In a country governed by the rule of law, only the judicial authority can order a restriction of my freedoms. Therefore, if somebody restricts my freedom without being the judicial authority, yes, it should be illegal.